Hello again and welcome to another Warhammer 40k 8th edition reveal. Today we'll be looking at the faction focus Death Guard. Know thy enemy, guys, and there is no enemy greater than the great enemy. Death Guard are one of the original traitor legions, and they have a reputation for just being hard as nails. These guys were doing Necron before Necron was even a thing. Any of you that have faced, as Imperial Guard commanders, that have faced Death Guard and have faced Nurgle in general, especially at the beginning of 6th and generally through 7th, you guys know that these guys are hard to kill. Most of the time, Imperial Guard trying to bring these guys down with small arms such as mass lasgun fire just didn't work. I mean, to wound basic infantry in a Nurgle Death Guard army, you did 6s with your lasguns. Your heavy bolters were only wounding on 4s. The trusty autocannon was still wounding on 2s though, so at least we still had that. But these guys were hard as nails. And, you know, even tried and tested weapons for beating power-armed enemies like battle cannons, which could normally instant death, you know, feel no pain models. Not against Death Guard. So, Death Guard are and always have been the #1 faction army unit that can shrug off mountains of small arms fire. You really do need to bring your biggest guns to bring these guys down. And this is still very, very true in 8th edition. I mean, let's get right into it. The entire faction has the army-wide rule, disgustingly resilient, which is what we saw in the Chaos Demon faction focus. It is essentially feel no pain. Against damage dealt, all Nurgle units get a 5+ disgustingly resilient save on top of their armor save, and on a 5+, they just ignore that damage. So even if you get hit by really high strength weapons, you know, they're still going to get... These guys are still going to be ignoring it 33% of the time. Although what's important to note is it's damage, it's not wounds. So if you have a las cannon and you shoot a Death Guard guy and you wound him, and on the damage roll you get a 6, he has to pass 6 disgustingly resilient saves to survive. Okay, so that it's, you know, it's kind of balanced. You know, it's not just, oh, you got a 6, but guess what? I passed a single 5 up on armor. Okay, no, they have to be resilient against the damage. So that's cool. That I like it because it kind of balances it out. Of course, Plague Marines are troops. Of course, goes without saying. Plague Marines themselves are still toughness 5. Holy shit, guys. I don't think, the internet hasn't really gone nuts about this, but I don't think they've really clocked how important it is to have toughness 5. Yeah, against things like lasguns, you're still going to get wounded on 5s. So, lasguns are actually going to be now a good weapon to use against Plague Marines. But what that actually means is Plague Marines are now much more resilient to heavy weapons fire. Hear me out. Okay, so against which means overall they're now much tougher. And hear me out, but with this. So against small arms fire, you're still pretty tough. I mean, the enemy is only wounding you on a 5+. That's true. So the enemy has got a slightly, you know, lasguns have got a slightly better chance of getting through to these guys, but you get your disgustingly resilient save as well, which they currently have. But you get your 5+ save, which is good. Against big weapons, you're only going to get wounded on a 3+ now instead of a 2+, and you still get your disgustingly resilient save as well. So what it means is against weapons like las cannons, bright lances, melter guns, all that kind of stuff that would normally you would use to punch through Death Guard and wound them on a 2+. Now they're only wounding on a 3+, which means they're taking 16% less damage from heavy weapons. However, on the flip side, it does actually mean they're taking 16% more damage from lasguns. So, swings and roundabouts here, guys. Swings and roundabouts. They are now more resilient to our heavy weapons, though. So there we go. They still have plague knives, but now they allow them to reroll ones in close combat to wound. Okay, meh, not too. That's fine by me. Probably better for them overall. They have a new weapon called the Blight Launcher. It's Assault 2, Strength 6, AP -2 that does D3 damage at 24-inch range. As a guardsman, I am not too worried about this weapon. Against our infantry, it's kind of overkill, you know? And it hasn't got the strength to root us completely out of cover. So against our infantry, we're still going to get a 6+ save and cover against this thing. And you know, it's good, but it's not amazing against guardsmen. Against other armies, it's fucking great. You know, go for it. I mean, I guess it is wounding us on 2s though. That's its big thing. It's wounding us on 2s. It's actually surprisingly really good against our vehicles, because it's got a high strength 6. Against most guard vehicles, it's going to be damaging us on a 4+, and at the worst, it's going to be damaging us on a 5+. And AP -2 is pretty crazy. That means that a Chimera, if we assume it's got a 4+ save and we assume it's got toughness 4, a Chimera is in real trouble against this thing. It's going to wound the Chimera on a 4+, and the Chimera is only going to get a 6+ save. That's pretty ballsy. Anyway, like Games Workshop says, overall, Plague Marines are a really dependable troop choice. Hard as nails and dead killy. They're not. What I like about them though is they actually come across very balanced, because they're more resilient against some things but weaker against others. Their gun that they have is good against some things but a bit meh against others. Their plague knives reroll 1s to wound. Well, that's okay against guardsmen. Plague Marines were re-rolling all failed wounds because they're in 7th edition, thanks to how poison worked. So, from a guardsman's point of view, these Plague Marines will be different to fight, so we will have to adapt our strategy a little bit, but not too much. We've just got to really think about what weapons we're going to be throwing against these guys, basically. And as you know, can't say wrong with lasguns getting a bit of a boost against them. That's always a good thing, right? Now the next unit that they talk about is the Pox Walkers, which, like I covered in the reveal video for the release date, they're just rebranded zombies, guys. These guys are just plague zombies, straight up plague zombies. They come in at 6 points a model. Now that seems pretty cheap. But we have no real reference against that. I mean, Tactical Marines are 13 points. Primaris Marines are, I think, 22 points. So they're cheap enough that you can get a good horde of them. But they're not quite as cheap as, say, conscripts, hopefully, or guardsmen are in the current edition. One thing to bear in mind, though, is I believe these guys are significantly cheaper than, maybe by 1 or 2 points. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. They're either the same price or a couple of points cheaper than the current plague zombies that we can take by giving cultists the mark of Nurgle. So that's cool. They also have Disgustingly Resilient, which means against everything they got a 5+ save. Awesome. Looking at them, they don't look like they've got any armor, so they've basically got like a 5+ invulnerable save, kind of. They've got a 5+ feel no pain. They're fearless. So again, I'm raising my eyebrow at this because you told me, Games Workshop, that not many models would have fearless. We had a whole army of fucking fearless Tyranids. Now we've got fearless Pox Walkers. God damn it. Interesting though. They mention fearless on the Pox Walkers, but they don't mention fearless on the Plague Marines. So that's an interesting one, guys. These Plague Marines, they might be hard as nails, they might be tough as shit, but If we kill half the squad and the other half of the squad goes poof thanks to battle shock, they won't be too bad. Combine that with their ability to take more damage from lasguns, and I'm thinking a platoon of guardsmen wanging down first rank fire, second rank fire, backed up by a significant quantity of heavy bolters and autocannons, will really be able to chew through these Death Guard bastards. So, you know, well, through the Plague Marines. So interesting. I know this is going to sound crazy, guys, but I suspect that Pox Walkers may, you know, assuming their toughness 4, Pox Walkers may be the new go-to Death Guard unit. I'm just saying, they may. That's what it feels like to me. These guys are cheap. They have a lot of the benefits of Plague Marines with few of the downsides. And it gets better when you find out that they have another special rule called the Walking Pox. Totally not a rip-off of The Walking Dead. Which means you can add another Pox Walker to the unit every time they slay an enemy infantry model. So that's crazy. I mean, does that mean that it's a little bit ambiguous how the wording is put down here? It says any enemy infantry model. So does that mean if you slay 20 enemy infantry models, you get 1 Pox Walker? Or if you slay 1 enemy infantry model, you get 1 Pox Walker? Or does it mean for every model that you kill in close combat, you gain a Pox Walker? That's kind of cool. Also, we don't know, does this come out of our reserves point bank? Because remember, guys, to have reserves now, you've got to have points in the bank to bring them in. You know, with summoning as well. So will this rule act like summoning, or do we have our first game-breaking unit, guys, where they can just get free models and not have to pay for them? Interesting. Could be a slippery slope. If they're slipping up already on this with the Pox Walkers, we could be seeing it again with other factions. However, pessimism aside, let's bring the optimism in. I think that what the rule will be is you can't go above your original starting size. So if you slay a couple of guardsmen in combat and you've lost a couple of Pox Walkers in combat, you can bring them, your Pox Walkers, those 2 that you've lost, back. But I don't think you'll be able to go above your starting size. The reason I say this is I've been reading the Emperor's Tarot, consulting the ways of the warp, consulting with my astropath, / I've been looking on the internet, and people are saying that's how it works in Age of Sigmar. So there you go. Now, the last thing I want to say, I've saved the best till last. The Death Guard. So that to me implies the whole army has a psychic power which you cast on one of your units. Until the next turn, your opponent must subtract 1 from all hit rolls on that unit. Miasma of Pestilence. Interesting. Combine that with toughness and disgustingly resilient, and that does make Death Gun units extremely difficult to get rid of. So when I'll be honest with you guys, I'm going to be honest, when I first read that, I thought that was just a special rule. Now that I've read it again, and I see it's a psychic power, I think that's pretty balanced. If that is like a template for the new invisibility, if that's how invis works, you roll, it's -1 to hit, I'm okay with that. Although best thing ever is if just invisibility just goes the way of the dodo and we never see it again. So let's summarize the shit out of this article. Death Guard look like a really cool faction. I think Death Guard players and Chaos players and people who have always really had a thing for Nurgle are going to get a really good kick out of this Death Guard stuff. I think the models are appropriately disgusting. Whilst they're pretty busy, I've said that, in my other thing, they're pretty busy, there's a lot going on. They are appropriately fucked up for Nurgle. They look badass, and also they've got the rules that match the fluff. These guys look crazy. I am willing to lay down 10 internet points which are worth absolutely nothing, but I'm willing to lay down 10 Imperial credits that Pox Walkers will be the go-to infantry unit for Death Guard over Plague Marines. I'm just saying that now, guys, because they'll be cheap, they'll be tough, and they'll have a lot of awesome rules. So what do you guys think? Do you think I'm wrong? Are the Pox Walkers just going to be a bit of a joke unit that never sees the light of day? Are the Plague Marines the true sons of Nurgle, the true sons of the Death Guard of Mortarion? Are they going to be the go-to unit, or is it going to be the shambling hordes of mutated Pox Walkers? Who knows? I want you guys to tell me what you guys think. What is your take on the Death Guard? How do you think? Have you guys got any strategies for beating them? Potentially. My go-to strategy currently is fucking mass lasguns. With that, a 16% more chance to damage them. That's my go-to strategy. What do you guys think? Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.